Just only one God that is the same for all mankind. Let love come in and bring the rising light.
I'm Roberto Sanchez, coming from north of Spain. Alone Productions, Alone Art Music Studio, Alone Art Band. Working in different projects since the mid-90s and really loving the root sounds coming from Jamaica, late 70s, early 80s. It was, as I told you, like mid-90s, something like that. We get together with different friends in my hometown in Santander, north of Spain, and we created a band. And we started noticing that the real meaning of reggae sometimes is coming from the studio works. Some of the sounds we love, such as dub, for example. You need to start recording separate tracks, to start mixing and so on. So that was my first experience with producing. Like, it was maybe after creating the band, by maybe 1995, 1996, something like that. You know, my family, all my family, we are musicians. So I have a piano at home since I was born. And my father, he sings, plays different instruments. My brother teaches guitar. My grandmother, she was piano player in Cuba. All of us, we love music. So from a really tender age, I could approach different instruments. Then I had the opportunity to study piano a little bit. But it was more a kind of nightmare because, you know, it was classic piano. So I preferred to play football and so on. But then I fell in love with reggae when I was 13. My father also used to sing. All of them sing. My uncle, my father, my brother. And because I fell in love with reggae when I was 13 years old, it was quite difficult to find proper roots music then. So I fell in love firstly with Bob Marley, which was easily, and it was like a shock for me when I was 13, like wow. Then I really went into it with King Toby and all of the stuff, Johnny Clark, I loved him. And it was by then that I started, you know, playing instruments again. And you know, when I started producing, it seems like most of my friends, they could not come to the studio oftenly and so on. But every morning I went to school, then I did some homework, whatever, and went to the studio straight, every day, for 7 years. I started learning how to do it. Okay, I need a drum, so let's try to play the drums a bit. So I started, you know, playing it. But my instruments is more piano and guitar and bass. That's mostly what I play the most. It was through Blackboard Jungle, in fact, because I had the opportunity to meet with Blackboard, and I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago at Rotterdam. It was a nice meeting, and you know, good vibes. So we met in France for some shows, and then we start, you know, like talking about possible production works. And because they are working with Rocker Disciples, we decided to go to Rome, and then we met at their rehearsing place. So we start creating rhythms, the rhythms together. By then they already sent me one rhythm and I made a song by them. And the vibes were really good because that's what I was doing in my hometown for all of my life. You know, getting together in a garage and wherever and start, you know, building rhythms, ideas. So we went from there. They start building like, we created like 4 or 5 rhythms that session. They went to record it, then send it to me and I voice them and play some overdubs on it. Little things because it was really properly played. And that's my relation. Then we made one live show in Belgium, which was really good. It was a presentation for that project. And it was really good. And yeah, that's the relation. You know, it's like I got a special vibe when I listen to Prince Salah. Prince Salah for me, he represents so many things, from his humble ways to his deep lyrics, through his melodies. It's amazing. In fact, I felt in love with all of those Greenwich Farm artists, like Rock Taylor, El Zero, or even himself, Prince Salah. It was a quite a quite nice discovery for me when I was a youth, you know. Their falsetto, that thing they do, and I love that. I know it's pure vibes. But it's nice because there's a guy, Solo from Mesa. He was working with him, and he told me that, and all the people working with Ala said that he's a really nice guy. So that's also what we need in music, no? Because whenever you tour with an artist or you bring him to the studio, a tour, it's only 1 hour and a half on stage, but you have to make a living. You have to, not to make a living, you got to live the day with the artist or with, and it's not an artist anymore if you are in the van, it's a person. So it's nice to meet humble, nice persons to work with and live, tour around or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's huge and amazing. For us in Spain, France was always a reference because in the past we have 30 years from 1940 till 75 without dictator. It's 35 years. So during that period we were close to all the culture, music, films, everything going around in the world. But in France was a little bit different. So that means that at the end, during 90s, the explosion, or 80s, even 80s here, the explosion of reggae is bringing now this sound system scene really deep. And in a way, it's French. I mean, it has its own flavor. That is good. And in Spain, we look at it like a reference because we are like 10 to 15 years back in time. So things are going good in Spain, but still step by step. Okay. In France, I love it. You can understand the size of this scene and the love of French people for this music when it's possible to set up a festival of 3 days, open air, with such a huge lineup. It's almost everyone. And so I was telling to one guy of the organization that you could maybe, you don't need to do it bigger or better because it's perfect. All I desire for them, or my wish for them is to last long, to keep doing it year by year, because that's the success, keeping it alive.
What they call us black people, that's only one God, and it's the same for all mankind. I can feel my God is living in every man's heart. Yes, you got to feel it. You have to feel it. You have to feel it. You have to feel it. So I tell you, yes, one God.